Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday, and welcome to a new episode of Recovery Hacks. I hope each and every one of you are enjoying a wonderful weekend. Now, as you know, Dr. Julie and I just wrapped up our intuitive eating series where we applied the deeper work approach to each of the 10 principles. And this past week, we discussed the 10th and final principle, which is honor your health with gentle nutrition. Now, if you haven't yet had a chance to watch the episode, I highly encourage you to do so. And in this episode, we really emphasize the word gentle. Now, how many of you are really hard on yourselves? Definitely the opposite of gentle, right? How many of you crack the whip? How many of you drive yourself and push yourself and sometimes do it with pretty harsh edges, critical words, perfectionism, high expectations? Can any of you relate to this? Well, as you know, Dr. Julie and I are big advocates for treating yourself with gentleness, kindness, compassion, handling yourself with kid gloves so that it really feels safe within your own relationship with yourself to explore, to learn, to make mistakes, and to rest. When we can live in this gentle space of balance where we take inspired action to pursue the things that are important to us and get things done, but we also know when to slow things down and rest. When we're able to be in that balanced place, our body and our minds don't need disorder to try to cope. So, for today's recovery hacks, I want to offer you 5 tips for how to be more gentle with yourself. Okay, I think this is something that we can all continue to work on. It's definitely a process and a work in progress. And for those of us who are highly sensitive people, being gentle with ourselves is really, really important. If you think about your relationships with others, and you're an HSP, my guess is that you thrive in relationships where the other person is really gentle with you, right? That doesn't mean that they can't be direct or they can't be honest, but they're thoughtful with their words and their tone of voice and their actions. And they respect and appreciate that maybe you're a bit more emotionally sensitive because that's just how you're hardwired. And so they bring a soft edge, as I like to say, to the interaction. Well, we really want to be able to do the same thing for ourselves. We want to bring a soft edge to the way in which we talk to ourselves, the expectations we have of ourselves, and the things that we choose to do. So, hopefully, today's hack will give you 5 different ways to explore being more gentle with yourself. Okay. And I'm going to invite you to really think about how you interact with children. I'm sure you all have had interactions with kids in some way, shape, or form in your life. And children typically will bring out a more gentle side of us where we do handle them with kid gloves. We are more thoughtful about our word choice because we really want to be attuned to their emotional well being. And we know that their feelings can get hurt easily. They may not understand things because they're kids. And so we need to be gentle. Well, the same is going to be true for us. So think about how you interact with kids in the 5 ways that I'm going to offer and see if you can bring that back home to yourself. So, the first way to be more gentle with yourself is to speak kindly to yourself using words that have soft edges. Okay. And if you guys have watched my very early episodes of Recovery Hacks when we first started back in of 2019, one of the episodes that I did was on being able to respond to your emotional self with 2 very simple words: of course. And this is such a gentle way to care for your emotions because it's just allowing those emotions to be there and doing it in a really loving, validating way. You may not like the emotions, but you are gently receiving them and validating them. So, words like, of course, or it's okay, I don't need to be perfect, right? I'm doing a great job. I'm doing the best I can do. And rather than saying something like, I'm so messed up or I'm, I'm such a disaster, to be able to say I'm having a tough time right now. So word choice matters, and really think about the way in which you speak to yourself and try to be intentional about choosing words that have soft edges. When you say them to yourself, do they feel tender and gentle, or do they feel kind of harsh and critical? So really notice that, okay? The second way in which you can be more gentle with yourself is to slow down. So often, we move at a pretty fast pace. We live in a fast paced culture. And if you're driven by any kind of perfectionism or anxiety, which most people who struggle with binge eating disorder and emotional eating can sometimes feel like they're driven by a motor. They think fast, they do fast, they decide fast, and they try to go pretty fast at life. And that can really kind of create this sense of stress and anxiety within yourself. And that doesn't have a gentle feeling, does it? So see if you can slow down your process. Give yourself permission to lay in bed for a few minutes and just kind of be in that space rather than jump out of bed and get started. Or maybe something as simple as when you're driving, if you tend to have a lead foot, you know, go the speed limit and just kind of allow yourself to go at a more reasonable pace. You don't have to get there so quickly. You don't have to rush around so much. See if you can do a single task as opposed to multitasking. Okay. Slowing yourself down allows you to be more mindful, and being more mindful is a gentler way of being with yourself in the moment. So notice where you rush, notice where you get anxious, notice where you get a bit perfectionistic or maybe even a bit impulsive at times, and see if you can slow that down. Slow your breathing down, slow your body down, and it will help slow down your mind and your emotions. Okay. All right. The third way to be more gentle with yourself, again, think about kids, is to ask for help. How many of you try to do it all on your own? You don't want to burden anyone. You don't want to impose or inconvenience anybody, and you end up trying to do it all on your own. That is harsh, right? So, again, thinking about kids, if they have homework to do and they're struggling, we don't holler at them and say, "You've got to figure it out," right? We go and we sit down and we say, "Okay, what are you struggling with? Let's look at this together." And that's a gentler approach. It actually calms down the nervous system. And then we feel like, okay, I've got some support here. I'm not alone. I can do this. So notice the times when you really do need or want some help or support, and you are really denying yourself that. A gentler approach is to say, it's really okay for me to ask for help. It would make things a lot easier or gentler for me. And then go ahead and do that. Okay. The fourth tip for creating more gentleness within your relationship with yourself is to let good enough be enough. I know this is a hard one. So often, the wonderful clients that I work with are really driven by perfectionism and trying to get the best. And even when we look at eating, diet culture is all about perfect eating, clean eating, the healthiest eating, the most structured eating, not cheating. And it's all about this good or bad, right or wrong. And I think that really bleeds out into other areas of life as well. So, a gentler approach to self is to allow imperfect to be enough, to allow good enough to be enough. I definitely have that perfectionistic tendency within myself. I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I really challenge myself. If there's something that's super, super important to me, I will give it my all. I certainly know that I can't make it perfect, but I will definitely give it a lot more energy than other things. But then there are some things where I'm like, Ashley, it's okay. Just let good enough be enough. Let it be 70% or 75% of what it could be. It's okay. And then I do feel my body like, oh, okay, good. And think again about working with kids. We often say to them, I don't expect perfection. I don't expect you to get all A's. I expect you to do your best. And sometimes our best is going to be really, really good. And sometimes it's going to be mediocre. And letting that be enough. Okay. lastly, this is such an important one and one that you've heard me talk about in other episodes. Be gentle with yourself by focus on being rather than doing. Okay. When we are being gentle with ourselves, we allow ourselves to be in the moment. We allow ourselves to be and to enjoy the act of being, as opposed to being driven by the to do list and all of the things that we need to accomplish. All right. So, bringing your attention back to being and really relishing that is a wonderful way to be gentle with yourself. Again, thinking about kids, so much of what they need for their well being and their balance is time to just play, time to just be, right? Not doing their homework, not cleaning their room, not checking off their chores list, but being allowed to just freely play and let their minds wander and let themselves have fun. And I don't think we do that enough as adults. And that is a gentler approach to how we use our time and our energy and how we care for our emotional self. Okay. So there are your 5 tips for being more gentle with yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. Use words that have soft edges. Slow down the pace of life and don't push yourself and drive yourself so hard all the time. Ask for help. Let good enough be enough and focus on being rather than doing. Certainly, we can't do all 5 of these all the time, okay? But the goal is to be aware of these 5 strategies, to implement them as much as possible. And the more we can do that, the more comfortable we become with this gentler, softer approach to ourselves. And believe it or not, the gentler you are, the more likely you are to feel good, to feel balanced, to feel joyful, and then to have the energy to actually get out there and accomplish all of the wonderful things that you're wanting to accomplish. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. And as always, in the comments below, I would love to hear which ones have you already implemented? Which ones are you excited to try? And what do you think about this whole concept of being gentle with yourself? I know a lot of people feel resistance to it. I hear from my clients all the time, but Ashley, if I'm gentle with myself, then I'm just going to let myself go. I have to drive myself, or else it's all going to fall apart. And as logical as maybe that sounds, it's actually paradoxical. The more we are gentle with ourselves, the stronger we feel to be able to get out there and do what we want. So give it a try. Let me know how it goes. I'll see you back here next week. Bye bye.